not to go into kind of a real tangent, the focus of bringing this up is, if he didn't really want us to fast the whole month of Sha'ban in the way he did, what was one of the lessons that he was trying to show us is to increase your deeds to prepare for Ramadan. So that wasn't limited to just fasting, but our recitation of Quran, our du'as, our prayers, our charity, and our good deeds in general. Try to fix our character. If we've been kind of rude to our parents, see if I can't be extra nice to my parents leading up to the month of Ramadan. If I haven't been the best sibling, I've been mean to my little brother, or I have been disrespectful to my older sister, then let me see if I can't be more polite to them. Because when we talk about increasing good deeds, we sometimes forget that some of the best deeds is good character, and that nothing will be heavier on the scales on the Day of Judgment than husnul khuluq, to have good character. So this is actually a deed that we try to increase. So whatever it is that we're able to do, we should start trying to do a little bit more in preparation for Ramadan. So much so that the Prophet ﷺ, on the last day of Sha'ban, he actually ascended the pulpit, the mimbar, and he recited and he advised the community with a very important hadith. And this is something else we can try to do. And hopefully this is a part of that. And perhaps on a couple of nights leading up to Ramadan, there may be some other reminders after the prayers that could center around these type of advices, which the Prophet ﷺ gave right before Ramadan began. So it's a famous hadith where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned to the companions, قَدْ أَضَلُّكُمْ شَهْرٌ عَظِيمٌ مُبَارَكٌ, that a very great and blessed month has now approached you. You're on the precipice of a very blessed and great month. So when the Prophet ﷺ describes it as being something great, then we should take heed and listen and know that it's actually something very great. And it's a lengthy hadith, and I wanted to focus on one part of it. One part of it which will be a kind of a takeaway for us to try to apply into our daily life when Ramadan comes. Because there can be a lot of kind of theoretical discussions, motivational things, but what is something that I can take away to try to do? So, towards the end of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he advised the companions that they should increase 4 things. Right? They should increase 4 things. وَاسْتَكْثِرُوا فِيهِ مِنْ أَرْبَعِ خِصَالٍ. You should try to do 4 things in abundance and more than normal in the month of Ramadan. And of these 4 things, there are 2 things that will be pleasing to your Lord. خَصْلَتَانِ تُرْضُونَ بِهِمَا رَبَّكُمْ. There are 2 things which will be very pleasing to your Lord, and then there will also be 2 things وَخَصْلَتَانِ لَا غِنَاءَ بِكُمْ. Right? There are 2 things which everyone needs. 2 things which will be very pleasing to your Lord, and 2 things which every single person needs. As for the 2 things which are very pleasing to your Lord, أَمَّا الْخَصْلَتَانِ اللَّتَانِ تُرْضُونَ بِهِمَا رَبَّكُمْ فَشَهَادَةُ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَتَسْتَغْفِرُونَهُ. The 2 things you should try to increase, which will please your Lord, is to say La ilaha illallah. All of us know how to say this, right? The youngsters, you know how to say this? Big brother right here in the maroon sweats, you know how to say that? Can you say La ilaha illallah? How about these youngsters right here? Can you all say La ilaha illallah?
Yalla, everybody. Say La ilaha illallah.
Yeah, let me hear it. Say La ilaha illallah. Yeah, everyone knows how to say La. This brother right here, you know how to say La ilaha illallah? Say La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar. The Prophet ﷺ is saying, increase 4 things. 2 things are very pleasing to your Lord. The first thing is to say La ilaha illallah. Whenever you're now fasting in the month of Ramadan, whenever you're sitting in between the rakats of Taraweeh, whenever you're at school just sitting down, whatever you're doing, say La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. And this will become very pleasing for Allah. And you get extra blessings for saying this, especially in the month تَسْتَغْفِرُونَهُ. You should seek forgiveness from Allah. What's an easy way to seek forgiveness? Astaghfirullah. Everyone knows how to say Astaghfirullah? Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. This is something which is also very beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then there are two things. There are two things which all of us need. The two things which we all need is we need to enter into paradise. And the second thing is we need to be protected from the hellfire. So when we say La ilaha illallah, it makes Allah happy because we're praising Him. When we say Astaghfirullah and we seek His forgiveness, it makes Him very happy because we're asking Him to forgive us. Right? These two things make Allah happy. But when we ask for paradise, what does that have to do with Allah? It has to do with us. And we all need that. So we ask Allah for asking Allah, oh Allah, can I have, let me go to paradise. Oh Allah, let me go to Jannah. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-Jannah. Oh Allah, I ask you for paradise. Make dua for paradise. Make dua that Allah enters your loved ones in paradise. Make dua that, oh Allah, let my mom go into paradise. Oh Allah, let my dad go into paradise. Oh Allah, I have a best friend. His name is Khalid. Let him go to paradise. Oh Allah, my neighbors, they're so kind. They send over biryani for iftar. Let them go to Jannah. Make dua for Jannah. And you know what else we need? We ask for protection from the hellfire. Because if we ask for protection from the hellfire, this is not praising Allah, it's not doing anything for Allah. It's for ourselves. We need protection from that. And then seek protection. Oh Allah, protect my brother from the hellfire. Oh Allah, protect my sister from the hellfire. Oh Allah, protect my auntie from the hellfire. Oh Allah, protect my uncle from hellfire. And make dua for the people in your life that you love. These four things the Prophet ﷺ has advised us to do more of this. So by doing these four things, not only will we be doing two things which Allah loves and two things which we need, but we'll be following the advice of our Prophet ﷺ. And when we follow the advice of our Prophet ﷺ, this is also something which is very beloved. And let me just speak a little bit more before I pass it, inshallah, to our Imam, about those two things which Allah really likes. There's also a very special dua which captures both of them. There's a dua which captures both of them. Does anyone know the dua of Sayyidina Yunus alayhi salam when he was in the belly of the whale, in the bottom of the ocean? What was that dua? La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. It captures both. The first part of which is La ilaha illa anta. There's nothing worthy of worship other than you. So it captures the shahada to say and express Allah's oneness. Subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Glory be to you, O Allah. Indeed, I have wronged myself. I've made mistakes. Now, when you say that I've wronged myself, are you asking for forgiveness? Absolutely. What are you actually doing when you say, oh Allah, I've wronged myself, I've made a mistake? What are you actually doing? You're saying also, so forgive me. But see the humility in how this dua was made. And this is a very deep wisdom, because this was no ordinary dua. This was the dua of a prophet while in the belly of a whale, in the darkness of the ocean. And because of this dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescued him and removed him from there. The dua, when he says, Inni kuntu min al-zalimin, it's almost as if we're so ashamed of our mistakes that I can't even ask for forgiveness. I just am going to tell you I'm wrong. I did something wrong. And because of the shame, we can't even say forgive me. But what do we know about a very forgiving person? In general, not to speak of Allah, what do you say, what do you know about a forgiving person? Someone who's merciful. If you just go up and stand before them and you just tell them, you know what, I was wrong, I made a mistake. Before you could even say, I'm sorry, forgive me, it's already forgiven. They're already telling you, say less. You're forgiven. You don't even have to ask at that point. Just going to them and saying, I've made a mistake, I was wrong. Say less. You don't even have to say sorry at that point. You don't even have to say forgive me at that point. That person is already hugging you because they love you and they're forgiving. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes we feel so shameful because of our mistakes that we can't even say, forgive me. We just say, oh, Allah, I was wrong. And Allah forgives a person. This dua is so great that this was the dua of Sayyidina Yunus alayhi salam. And if the Prophet ﷺ even said about this dua, if you say this dua before making any other dua, whatever you ask for afterwards, Allah will grant you. This is not just restricted to Ramadan. Whoever says this dua of Sayyidina Dhannun, Sayyidina Yunus alayhi salam, whatever he asks for after, Allah will grant. So let us make it a habit in Ramadan to say this frequently. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minadh dhalimin. And by saying that, we'll take care of the first two. If you know that dua. Otherwise, if you don't know that dua, you can just say La ilaha illallah, astaghfirullah. La ilaha illallah, astaghfirullah. And then the last two again, asking Allah for paradise. I'm going to share one last thing about this, inshallah, which is that the Prophet ﷺ, to tie it into this specific dua, he mentions in a hadith that whoever asks Allah for paradise, من سأل الله الجنة ثلاث مرات قالت الجنة اللهم أدخله الجنة. That whoever says, oh Allah, give me Jannah 3 times. Whoever asks for paradise 3 times. And this is not just in Ramadan. Then Jannah itself will make dua for you. And say, oh Allah, let this person go to Jannah. Who's making this dua for you? Jannah is making dua for you. Not some pious person, not the Cheikh. Right? Again, we go to the Shaykh, sometimes, Cheikh, can you make dua for me? And he's like, yeah, I'll make dua for you. And we feel good. Alhamdulillah, you're making dua for me. How about if Jannah is making dua for you? You can request the duas of Jannah by saying, oh Allah, grant me Jannah. Oh Allah, grant me Jannah. Oh Allah, grant me Jannah 3 times. Then Jannah will make dua for you. And then he says, whoever seeks protection from hellfire, ثلاث مرات قالت النار اللهم أجره من النار. Whoever says, oh Allah, I seek your protection from hellfire 3 times, then hellfire itself will make dua for you also. And say, oh Allah, protect them from the hellfire. Oh Allah, protect them from the hellfire. Hellfire will make dua for you. So as Ramadan approaches, there's a lot of things that we can be doing. A lot of extra deeds that we can be doing. Not to mention being attached to the Quran. But we're going to hear a lot of that. I wanted to focus on these 4 particular things, as perhaps I may not be able to share some nasiha again with the community here before Ramadan begins, that we try to increase these 4 things. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ told us we should do that. And by sharing this, hopefully we're also following the Prophet ﷺ's advice and trying to follow how he would give advice. Because his advice and his nasiha was the best nasiha, was the best advice. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh Musa, for the beautiful reminder. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to practice upon what was said. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us reach through Ramadan and accept Ramadan from us. I don't know what to say after Sheikh shared his reminder. He hit the, mashallah, the bullseye, mashallah ta'ala. I will try my best, inshallah ta'ala. So alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een wa man ihtada bi sunnatihi ila yawmiddin amma ba'd. This is too echoey. This is good for Quran. But let me see this. Bismillah, Bismillah. Yeah, it's much better, mashallah. The other one is, my words will get lost in there. So mashallah, beautiful reminder from the Sheikh. I will inshallah share some reminders first and foremost for me, myself, and to the brothers here and the sisters here, so that inshallah when we enter Ramadan, we can enter being somewhat prepared. Firstly, when we see the Salaf al-Salihin, they used to prepare 6 months in advance. And then after Ramadan passes, they used to pray for another 6 months that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts Ramadan from them. And this is the mode that you and I should have. Whenever Ramadan approaches us or is near to us, we prepare ourselves. As Sheikh mentioned, the hadith where Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu saw something strange in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he fasted the whole month of Sha'ban. لم أراك لم أراك تصوم شهرا من الشهور. Like, I have not seen you fast as much as you fasted in the month of Sha'ban. And you've seen that from the actions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to prepare himself for the month of Ramadan. But there's one thing that you and I we miss the main point. Whenever the month of Ramadan comes, as soon as the day comes, we start thinking that there is an on button in us. Right before Ramadan, we live about our day. Then as soon as that first day comes, it's like as if we have a magic switch in ourselves. Now we act, mashallah, all pious and all that. And we put a lot of emphasis on ibadat upon ourselves, which is good, nothing's wrong with that. But that's not from the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we collect all the hadith and see how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught the Sahaba and how he himself lived upon by the practices when the month of Ramadan came, there are around 3 principles which he lived by, and the Sahabas after them lived by, all the way up to the Salaf al-Salihin until today. And the first and foremost, extremely important, we always tend to compare ourselves to others. Nothing's wrong with that. فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. Competition is good, but our actions, we're going to be held accountable for our actions, right? It comes to a point where our ikhlas, our khushu', our concentration and devotion is not in the actions anymore. We are just making it into a competition. And it goes back to the beautiful hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where a sahabi came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and told him that, "Oh Rasulullah, I will fast. I will continue to fast every single month." And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Alaykum bima tutiqun." First principle: take on what you can manage. And this same hadith has another narration where Aisha radiallahu anha hears that there's this lady telling Aisha radiallahu anha that she would pray this much. And Aisha goes back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and tells him this interesting thing of this lady, that she's claiming that she will continue on praying and praying. And there is something that Aisha radiallahu anha noticed, that he wasn't amazed, he wasn't shocked. He said, "Mah alaykum bima tutiqun." Take on what you can manage. Of course, we don't want to be of those people where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stepped on the minbar and said, "Ameen," where the month of Ramadan passes by and and the person doesn't take advantage of it. We don't want to be from that type of people. But what we need to understand is we take on what we can manage. And it leads to my next point. Because if you know what you can manage, depending on your schedule, depending on your lifestyle, and you adding a little bit to that in the month of Ramadan. Obviously, you don't want to make the Ramadan like any other month. You have to put some extra emphasis, extra time, extra work in the month of Ramadan. But there's a big but. Take on what you can manage. And it leads to my next point. The second principle is كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان عمله ديمة. His actions were consistent. Many times in Ramadan, subhanallah, we think that, I'm going to recite 5 khatmah of Quran. I'm going to recite, 6 khatmah of Quran. When we start it, and then towards the middle, subhanallah, there's a big dip. We promise ourselves that I'm going to go pray Taraweeh every single day with the Imam. Middle of the month comes, you come to the masjid, there's a dip. And then the last 10 days comes, subhanallah, the people are back. Why is that? It goes back to this hadith. كَانَ عَمَلُهُ دِيمًا. And there's another hadith as well. إِنَّ أَحَبَّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. That the most beloved action to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something which is small and consistent. So consistency is the main thing which we should focus on. If we start something, we continue on that in the month of Ramadan, and most importantly, after the month of Ramadan. And even though Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you see his life in the month of Ramadan, the Sahaba, their life in the month of Ramadan, it was a little bit extra compared to other months, but it wasn't that big of a jump. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pray qiyam, tahajjud throughout the year. When the month of Ramadan came, he continued on that. It's not like after the month has passed by, that's it, you go back to your bed, you sleep. This is extremely important for you and I to understand. Consistency. We pick something and we continue on that. And there's another beautiful hadith. وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ بِشَيْءٍ وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أُحِبُّ لَهُ مِمَّا افْتَرَضْتُهُ عَلَيْهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what I love for my servant is what I made fard upon him. And just imagine, you coming to the masjid for the salah, the main fara'id, praying in jama'ah, instead of making a priority to pray extra nawafil at home, giving extra charity, which is good. But the fara'id is extremely important. You focusing on that will multiply your reward. And this leads to my third principle, which is prioritization. Prioritization in the month of Ramadan. As I've just mentioned a little bit, some point, where we come, pray Taraweeh, just imagine praying 2 rak'at with the Imam, mashallah, but then when Fajr comes, you pray at home, or you, even worse, you miss it. Priority is the main thing, ya ikhwan. Focusing on the fara'id will get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compared to the nawafil and skipping the fara'id. Priority is extremely important, especially in the month of Ramadan, where we prioritize what's more important in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we focus on the fara'id, and just imagine perfecting that with the ihsan, and actually just imagine praying your fard salah, and just imagine we pray right now, our normal salawat, right? Half the time we're thinking about our worldly affairs, our job, our family, and even worse, sometimes we forget which rak'at we are in, right? But now just imagine we change that in the month of Ramadan. We learn the real depth of the rulings of salah. We try to get connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through these fara'id acts. When we perfect that, then we can move on to the extras. And that's extremely important. So this first part that I spoke about these three principles is about you and I, individual basis. And the second angle which I want to tackle as well with the little time that I have, which is extremely rare that I don't hear as much, is as a parent, the right that the haqq that the kids have upon us. Many at times we focus a lot on ourselves in the month of Ramadan, and we forget our kids. We forget, as being the leader of the house, we forget our own family. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran? يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. O you who believe, save yourselves and your family. Not only save yourself from hellfire, but your family. كُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you'll be questioned on what has been given to you as like your family. You'll be questioned what type of knowledge you gave them, what ilm you gave them, if you got them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not. And the ayah, as Ali ibn Abi Talib, he gives a tafsir on this ayah. He says, عَلِّمُوهُمْ وَأَدِّبُوهُمْ. Teach them and raise them with the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Ibn Mas'ud, Qatadah وغيرهم قالوا عن هذه الآية أمرهم بطاعة الله وأنهاهم عن معصية الله. Command them, teach them on the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prohibit them, show them what is disliked in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's extremely important for you and I who are parents, that we teach this to our kids, especially living in this country where other festivals, other days are extremely high in the eyes of our kids. Christmas goes by, Halloween goes by, all these decorations goes by, but as soon as the month of Ramadan comes, we are extremely strict on our kids. Fast, do this and that, but they're only doing that because the fear of the parents. They're not doing it because of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is the haqq. They have the haqq upon us that you and I have to teach our kids that. Because as soon as you're gone from the picture, they'll be going the other way. And we see that so many times. I know people, I can name a handful of huffaz, the memorizers of the Quran, where they memorized because of the pressure. And as soon as that pressure, the parents or somebody looking upon them, they were gone, they went the other way. And we don't want that for our kids. We need to make them love the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like this month of Ramadan, we show them how important it is. We show them how important it is. And yes, it will be hard. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran again, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Command your family to pray, to worship, and have patience. Have patience, and patience is the key. We are parents. At the end of the day, we choose to be parent. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us about this in the Day of Judgment. That the way that we treated our kids, the knowledge we gave them, the way that we taught them, and this is extremely important. And Eid as well. Whenever Eid comes, subhanAllah, we put our kids in school, we pick them up probably, and take them Eid Salah and put them back again. We don't make it special. I can guarantee for the elders over here, if I were to ask you, whenever the month of Ramadan came, how you felt, you'll be telling the stories how your family would get together. It will be such a memorable day for you guys. Yes or no? Eid, Ramadan was a complete different feeling whenever it came, the month came, the community-wise, family-wise. And in this country, it is our kids who will be carrying on the legacy of Islam. And if we don't put the seed, in them, that seed in them, and then otherwise we'll be the losers. With that, I conclude, and we can open for, inshallah, Q&A if you have some questions, about, the topic of Ramadan, or any other questions. The Cheikh is here, I'm here to answer, inshallah ta'ala. And inshallah you can, and hopefully, inshallah, we come to the month of Ramadan with clean heart, with khushu' and khudu', with ikhlas, entering the month of Ramadan, hoping that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our sins, forgive our sins, forgive our intense amount of diseases in our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum. Sheikh, want to add anything on what I said, or all that? Any questions, inshallah? What time is Isha? Some minutes. Any questions, inshallah? I know one person will start, and slowly.
Imam Huzaifah, he mentioned a very important point towards the end about making sure we involve our kids in a way that they will enjoy this month. It's important to remember that fasting is not obligatory on a person until they're actually baligh, until they're physically mature. Be easy on the 7-year-olds and the 6-year-olds and saying, Habibi, wake up, it's time to fast. Right? 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, they don't have to fast. I know some of the 9-year-olds are like looking at your dad like, see, I told you, right? And there's other kids, I know other kids who fought their parents and are like, no, I want to fast, and they'll cry, so they won't eat, and they're like 7, right? So it's one thing if they like really want to, but understand that as a minor, it's not obligatory for them to fast. Now, there still has to be some form of tarbiyah and training and discipline it's the month of Ramadan, so do things like half-day fasts. Have them fast from breakfast until lunch, right? Like, you're going to eat breakfast, but you're going to fast till lunch. So they're not going to be snacking and little things like that. They feel like they're a part of it. And then they have their lunch. You're going to fast until your snack later, right? So you can do you can compartmentalize it with them. And then maybe afternoon, if you're feeling hungry and you look at their face, they look hungry, okay, come eat. Eat now and then fast all the way until iftar. And then they get happy because this is like a good deal. I could eat, and then I'm still going to be there until the evening. So you have to gauge your own children and understand that it's not obligatory for them to fast. Imam Malik rahimahullah actually used to detest having little kids fast, especially if it's by compulsion. That's a little thing I wanted to add there as far as etiquette of how we make sure our kids enjoy it. And then they also enjoy it. Sit them down, even if they weren't fasting, sit them down when it's time for iftar. Or as Maghrib approaches, say no more eating until iftar. We're all gonna at iftar time, we'll all sit down together and have some dates, and we'll drink whatever, mashallah, fancy, what is that pink drink that you own? Ruafza. We'll have some ruafza, and then inshallah, we'll pray Maghrib together. So then they can experience it like that also. But any other questions people can ask, inshallah.
Your question was how you know your limit and consistent. I mean, you gauge yourself. You see if you are gaining closer to Allah, the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You feel yourself, like let's say the first day comes, let's say Ramadan comes, you recite, mashallah, 5 ajza. And then the second day comes, you get tired, lazy or whatever, you get busy with work, you recite 1. See, there was a dip there, right? You pick something which you do it every single day, even if it's little. Let's say throughout the month, outside the month of Ramadan, you don't read anything, a page or something like that. You increase that in the month of Ramadan. And the whole point is that when you increase that in the month of Ramadan, you continue on that boost throughout the year. As I mentioned in my khutbah today, you use the month of Ramadan as a generator of light to boost you throughout the year. Just imagine a building, a big commercial building or something like that, a house has electricity and it's gone. If they have a generator, it pops, right? The electricity pops up, and the houses next to you is, it's all out of light. So you use this boost of Ramadan, this consistency, to go about for the rest of the year. So something small, right, which is manageable, right, which is manageable with your schedule. Let's say every single person is different. Let's say I know some people who is, doctor amongst us, mashallah, as doctor, the dentist over here, Abdul Wahid, other physicians here. Their schedules are extremely rough. Whereas there are some people that I know, mashallah, they have free time all day long, right? So between those two people, they have different, different ways that they can manage the ibadat in the month of Ramadan. So according to your schedule, your lifestyle, you do add extra and beyond out of the other months, out of Ramadan. But whatever you add, let it be consistent. And the whole point of this consistency is you gain the connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You fall in love with that ibadah. It can be one ibadah too, by the way. One extra ibadah. Quran, for example. Quran, I can go about for hours and hours of the benefit of Quran, the way that mu'jiz of Quran is changing your life. It can be tasbih, it can be extra nawafil, so on and so forth, inshallah. And you want anything to add, ya Sheikh? Sure. Barakallah feek. Hopefully that answered your question, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah, any other question? Yes. I'll come to you, inshallah, after. Oh, one to that, okay. Yes. How do you control eating?
The question is regarding how do you control eating? It becomes difficult to stand in prayer, right? Inshallah. You're acting on the command of Allah, kulu washrabu, a little too well, mashallah. So eating is fine, mashallah, but I don't know how to answer that except in a way which is commonsensical. We shouldn't be stuffing ourselves, right, like animals. A part of the fast is to control the animalistic part of us. We're both angel and animal. We have an animalistic side, we have an angelic side. So the purpose of the physical fast is to suppress the animalistic side of us so that we can try to increase and strengthen the angelic side of us. So when we eat now at iftar, we have to keep in mind that this is just like, there's nothing wrong with having a good meal.